I once heard a marriage and family therapist describe intimacy as, quote, "into me you see," end quote. My experience with the intimacy of podcasting has been to the extent of my broadcasting classes and my personal experience with visual podcasts such as those found on YouTube. However, this concept of intimacy from a therapeutic standpoint can still cross over if we were to look at the different ways that intimacy is built. I have a background in human development, and so to expand beyond this and into the world of broadcasting, I can see how powerful this experience can be with regards to building connection, and it makes sense to me that a parasocial relationship can be formed with the host. In my experience, intimacy has many layers and many different ways of being experienced in relationships. We can easily start with our six senses and move beyond that to include our thoughts and then our feelings when we are creating moments in our lives. I also have a background in education, and one of the best ways to remember things for the moment is to incorporate interconnected experiences with all of these senses. Sound for the hearing population is one of the first ways we experience life. Imagine a baby in its first hours of being born. Being exposed to the loud sounds of the world can be overwhelming after being in an enclosed, muffled womb for approximately 9 months. Then, ideally, they are soothed into a slumber by the sound of the person having carried them, that one familiar voice. York talks about how the goal for all media is to connect with the audience. He proceeds to discuss connection using distance and provides many examples of how the involvement of media has brought the audience closer and closer to the experience. Now with podcasting, York talks about how the closeness between the host and the audience is literally inside of our ears with the use of headphones. Similar to how a baby experiences the sounds of their caregiver through the first years of life, and how soothing that sound is when in distress, we find ourselves re-experiencing something similar with podcast hosts. Of course, this isn't the only thing that contributes to the intimacy we are describing. We are also including the fact that we gravitate towards listening to themes of common or specialized interests, giving validation to our individualized experiences. This feeling of no longer being alone in a massive world can be almost life-saving. One of the YouTube channels I started watching 4 years ago was one where daily morning messages were given. I was in a very new and vulnerable point in my life, and this person's voice was the voice I longed for, the one that provided comfort in a world that was unknown to me. I've heard stories of how media, not just podcasting, has united people in distress from different parts of the world. As humans, we long for many things to varying degrees of intensity. Human connection is one of many ways that brings us a sense of comfort when we are in need. And the power of sound with podcasting, I have learned, can be one of the most primal ways to develop a type of intimacy that can transcend connection across space and time. Experiences that continue to close the physical gap between people, unknowingly creating parasocial relationships in the process. To what length these parasocial relationships develop will depend on the individuals that own it. But just as life is on a spectrum, so too are relationships. Parasocial relationships are also on a spectrum, but can also be just on one extreme. My name is Yubi, and this is my transformed truth. Thank you for watching You Becoming Healed, where I model and teach you how to own and transform your truth for healing. Until next time.